Now, the truth is, most of us don't really get too excited about the things that we need to do in order to achieve our goals. We get excited about the outcome. It's like, oh, I want to lose 20 pounds. That can be quite exciting. Or I want to earn 100 grand this year, or whatever the goal might be. We get excited about the outcome and what that might mean for us and what potential changes, obviously positive ones, that can bring about in our life. And we tend to get motivated by the idea of this change. The catch is most of us then kind of realize what's going to be required of us in order to achieve those particular outcomes, and we start to lose motivation. And often it's because we perceive these things as being too stressful, too hard, too difficult, too challenging. It's too much of a life overhaul, and basically the cost is way too great to achieve this thing. So we tend to fall off the bandwagon quite a lot, because we know if we achieve that goal, we're going to feel happy and more motivated, and we're going to be able to celebrate and obviously be grateful for achieving that particular outcome. The catch is, for most of us, is we fail to celebrate our small wins along the way. So it feels like, oh, I've got to wait months or even years before I get to this particular outcome and I can finally be happy. But one of the things that I found is very good and very effective, essentially, at helping us to stay on track and give us the opportunity to congratulate ourselves along the way, is to make sure that we focus on the process, not just the outcome. So I've spoken about this type of thing with you guys before when we're talking about growth mindset versus fixed mindset and so on. But what I'm talking about here is like a specific strategy or tactic that you can use to kind of make sure that you're living in that space of growth mindset rather than just fixed. Now, luckily for us, is most of us humans, to be honest, we're pretty simple creatures, and we all want to feel better ultimately. So we will tend to work based on what we call approach avoidance behavior, and we will approach or move towards things that make us feel good, and we tend to move away or avoid things that make us feel bad. Generally speaking, there are some sick, twisted reasons as to why we don't sometimes, but that's for another video. So generally speaking, that's how we work. Now, believe it or not, one of the easiest ways for us to get what we would call a dopamine hit. So for those of you that don't know, dopamine is essentially a neurotransmitter, and it's one of the key neurotransmitters that is linked to reward and our reward and pleasure center. So anytime we do something that we perceive as good, we get a hit of dopamine. So, for example, scrolling social media or looking at funny videos and fun things and being overstimulated by social media and so on, it's so addictive to most of us because of the dopamine hit that we constantly get. If we win something or achieve something, we again get a dopamine hit. And what this essentially does is train us to try and keep repeating that behavior. Well, a very simple and effective way that we can achieve this when we're trying to move towards our goals, believe it or not, is a simple checklist. See, the brain loves completion, and in particular, completion of tasks that it knows are going to be useful or effective in achieving the outcomes that we want. So just simply having a checklist of the things that we need to do in order to achieve the outcomes, and actually holding yourself accountable enough to tick off those check boxes each day, is a great way to keep you on track. And what you will find is the longer the streak continues, quite often, the greater the dopamine hit will be, providing you're actually moving towards the goal, of course. So you want to have things on the list that are, of course, going to be effective. Don't just have random things on there. I'm sure you guys, maybe in the past, you've had to-do lists where you've almost deliberately added things on to the list just so you could tick them off. So it looks like you've got more done throughout the day. Well, that's because you're looking for or searching for that dopamine hit. And we don't necessarily recognize it consciously, but that's what's going on. We want this sort of feel-good hit. So we add things on the list because then it makes us look like we've accomplished more. So, for example, the goal might be to lose 20 pounds. So you might have on your list, right, well, I've got to eat 2 clean meals a day. I've got to make sure I exercise or move or train for a minimum of 30 minutes a day. I've got to make sure I get to bed by 11 p.m. tonight or each night or something like that. So those could be the types of things you've got on the list. There may be 1,000,001 other things that you feel you need, but quite often the list only needs to be fairly small. And the key, like with anything when we're trying to achieve it, is just consistency. consistently ticking off those check boxes on a daily basis is going to help you move towards your goals. And when you see your check boxes filling up, and the more consistent you become, the harder it will be for you to consciously break that habit streak. So unfortunately, sometimes we will accidentally fail. So I literally, the last 2 days, just broke a streak of my own. I was on 236 days of a technique called stacking, which is a form of journaling that I do through the coaching program I work on with my own coach. And I was on a 236-day streak. And then just randomly on Sunday, somehow I forgot to complete my stack. Well, the catch-22 is mine is all logged electronically in an app. So there's no way I can't even like go back and cheat it, if you know what I mean, unless I reset the date and time on my phone back a day and all that. But of course, rather than do that, I obviously just said, oh, well, unfortunately, I was a bit pissed off, if I'm honest. I wasn't quite just, oh, well, unfortunately. But, oh, well, unfortunately, I've got to start again. And it would be the same for yourself. It's like, unfortunately, during the journey, we're going to have hiccups. We're going to have trips, falls, spills, mistakes, failures even. And that's all part of the process. It's all part of that growth process. But all we do is dust ourselves off and get back on it. Okay, you missed a day. No big deal. Get back on it. Oh, I only managed to train, but I didn't eat well. Oh, well, doesn't matter. Tomorrow we get back on it. But giving yourself that daily dopamine hit, and potentially even multiple times as you go through your check boxes each day, that can be a great way to help motivate us and keep us feeling good as we move towards our goals. I know it sounds like a simple thing, and like I'm not that basic, Ty, but believe it or not, many of us humans actually are. And it's the simple things that help to keep us on board and on track. And often if we overcomplicate things and make them too complex, then all we find is that it's impossible to stick to. And it just becomes like some kind of wishy-washy, fantasy-driven thing that isn't actually going to help us get to our goals anyway. So that's all I'm going to leave you guys with today. Hope that helps. And this can literally just be written down on a piece of paper. The way I tend to do it, as I say, some of my stuff I track through my coach's app, and then other things, if they're not related to what we're doing in that coaching program, then I literally just have Excel spreadsheets, and I set those up, put in the particular tasks that I want to hit each day, whether it's related to my training, my nutrition, my sleep and recovery, things that I maybe need to do in my relationship with my partner or my daughter, or even business tasks, whether it's reaching out to new potential leads, whether it's getting back to people for sales calls, whether it's getting into content creation or planning out my lives for you guys and things like that. They all go onto my checklist, and then I check them off as I go. And believe it or not, just like you guys likely would, I feel much better when I see that I'm ticking those off, and it actually annoys me and pisses me off when I have gaps and days where I'm not ticking the boxes. So I'll leave that with you today, guys. Hope that helps. Any questions on this, or if you want me to provide you with templates and things, just let me know in the comments below. And if not, I look forward to seeing you all in my next video. Take it easy, and I shall chat to you all soon.